So, have you ever seen the movie Night at the Museum where Teddy Roosevelt's character, before turning into wax, looks at Larry, aka Lawrence, and says, "It's time for your next great adventure, son"? Yeah, that was basic college football telling Dowell Loggins to be great out in Boone, North Carolina, because he's now the next head coach at Appalachian State. Good for him, good for the program, good for the Sun Belt, but South Carolina, one of the rising teams in the SEC, really college football in general, needs a new play caller. And Shane Beamer is going through an extensive search to try and find the next guy to work alongside with LaNorris Sellers. I got some names and I don't want to waste any time. So welcome on into SEC Unfiltered. It's Cole Thompson here. Make sure that you like the video, hit that ring notification down below, and of course, smash the subscribe button because we talk more than just college football games. We talk coaching searches, transfer portal news, National Signing Day, whatever you see fit. So make sure that you hit the subscribe button, download the podcast version of the show wherever you get your podcast listening systems. Follow us on the socials, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at SEC Unfiltered. You want the back and forth banner to go along with me? It's at Mr. Cole Thompson on all the social platforms. And check out all of our great work found at SECUnfiltered.com. This episode is brought to you by our friends over at RHOBACK. South Carolina needs a new offensive coordinator, but you, this holiday season, might need a new pullover, fleece, hoodie, pair of shorts, pair of pants, whatever you see fit. Or you can give that gift to somebody else this upcoming Christmas, Hanukkah, whatever season you celebrate. And you can do so by going to RHOBACK.com, using the promo code SECU at sign up for a $20 purchase with your first purchase. So 20% off your first purchase when you go to RHOBACK.com and use the promo code SECU. Tell them that the fine folks at SEC Unfiltered sent you. This is a good move for Dowell Loggins. You know, when you look at the success that they had down that 6-game stretch, you knew he was going to be a hot name, whether it be for the NFL, for a bigger program, being a head coach. And now he gets to stay close by in proximity. He gets to go to Appalachian State that needs a new head coach after firing Sean Clark. And he gets to revamp that program, a program that has a ton of success and, more importantly, has very rich expectations for the Sun Belt. And this is a guy that has gotten rich expectations for his offense. But South Carolina needs a new play caller. Best of luck to Dowell Loggins moving forward. No idea what he's going to do for the bowl game. No idea if he's going to be on the sidelines when they take on the Fighting Brett Bielemas. Regardless, this is a team that has the personnel and the construct to really be humming moving forward. You got your quarterback. Automatically, that is a selling point to any offensive coordinator candidate. We got a dude that's not going anywhere. He could be here for the next 2 years. He's a favorite to be in the Heisman Trophy conversation. He can lead us to a college football playoff. Number two, you have an offensive tackle that is going to be a building block as a foundational piece in Josiah Thompson. So I got a quarterback and a left tackle for my future. I got 2 young wide receivers that showed progress and potential in Nick Harbor and Mazeo Bennett. We just had a top 25 recruiting class. We're going to be a hot name in the transfer portal bed. We were a very solid offense down the stretch. Don't look at our first half numbers. Look at our second half numbers. It's sustainable. Any offense coordinator should be foaming at the mouth to be a part of the system. Seriously, just tell me that I have LaNorris Sellers as my quarterback, and I'm very much excited. This is also a top 25 program in college football. No, that's not me saying this as a closeted South Carolina fan. That's not me telling you this to go ahead and get you to like the video, which, by the way, you should just do so anyways. This is what On3 is telling you. This is what 24/7 Sports is telling you. It's what Rivals is telling you. They go across the country. They look at the facilities. They look at the state-of-the-art workout rooms. They look at all the practice fields, the nutrition systems, the relax stations. South Carolina is ranked inside the top 25 in every single one, and they got the right guy in Shane Beamer. And so regardless of what you feel about South Carolina as a program from the outside looking in, it's a very solid program. Now, let's start off with some names that I don't think are going to be in the running, but you at least can go ahead and get your feelers out there. Dan Mullen. There was rumors that a few years ago he was interested in the job. So why not at least try to go back to the well? Maybe he's interested. Maybe he wants to get back into coaching, but he doesn't want to worry about being a head coach with the recruiting process. He just wants to call plays. Bobby Petrino did that last year at Arkansas. He did that at Texas A&M 2 years ago. He's enjoying life right now. Here's the reason I don't think it's going to happen. He's just too good on the broadcast. Like, if you watch Thursday Night Football with him and Matt Berry, it's awesome. He's in his own element. He gets to make fun of teams on Saturday when he's in the studio. He's great on Twitter. Like, he's actually become a very good moderating voice for college football. And he's getting paid a decent amount. So I'm not sure he wants to lead that lifestyle, but you can always just throw some feelers out there. A couple of other quick names for you. Definitely not at the top of my list. Mike Shanahan, the offensive coordinator for Indiana. This was one of the most explosive offenses in college football this year. They outgained every single opponent by nearly 200 yards, except for Ohio State. They outscored almost every opponent by over 20 points. They were one of the more dynamic units. He had experience out on the southeastern coast when he was at James Madison out in Virginia. He's a loyal disciple of Kirk Cignetti. Now, I don't know if this offense is going to translate the way that you wanted to from Curtis Rourke to LaNorris Sellers, but I at least would make a phone call, figure out if he wants to leave Bloomington to come back to the Palmetto State, or at least in the Southeastern region. And how about Charlie Wise Jr. from Ole Miss? Now, this would just be a dagger. This would just be a straight shot at Lane Kiffin for all the gripes and all the talks and all the tidbits that he's been doing over the last few weeks, saying how we beat you head to head. And they did, South Carolina, and partially it's because of how explosive the offense was. It was number 1 in scoring. It was number 2 in total yards. It was number 3 in passing yards. It was number 14 in rushing. It was one of the best red zone offenses in college football. And the game was over after the first quarter because of this offense was humming out in Columbia at Willie B when Ole Miss came to play you, which is, again, why they had the argument over you when it came to head-to-head matchups. They don't have a quarterback right now. You don't know what the future is going to hold for Austin Simmons. Jackson Dart was a dude that was bought into what Charlie Wise was doing. And they have mobility, and they know how to run the football extremely well. And Jackson Dart was one of the more mobile quarterbacks in college football. So you have to believe that if there's any sense of tension out in Oxford, maybe a fresh start is what's needed for Charlie Wise. Here's a fun stat for you. Charlie Wise Sr., former Notre Dame coach, and the guy that is the father of this man, spent 4 years coaching at South Carolina. So there are some ties and family correlation to there. I'm just saying, throw it on out. Maybe it'll work. Maybe it won't. All right, now let's talk about some real candidates. We'll go for the internal and then to the external afterwards. First one, it's got to be Mike Shula. I think we all knew Mike Shula was going to be on this list. If you want a good thing going, why break it? He already knows how to work with quarterbacks. He's worked alongside LaNorris Sellers this past year. He was a former play caller, both at the NFL and the college level. He has experience in the SEC. Remember, he was Alabama's head coach. He was a former quarterback. So who better to take advice from a quarterback than somebody who's played the position? He's also already in the building. So it's basically a passing of the torch. Remember last year when Jim Harbaugh left for the NFL, you saw as Jerome Moore was waiting. You watch as Dowell Loggins goes to Boone, North Carolina. There's Mike Shula waiting. The other one, Sean Elliott. Current run game coordinator. He has experience in a leadership role out in Columbia, South Carolina. Most of you know this. I don't have to repeat myself. He was the replacement for Steve Spurrier when the head ball coach decided to step on down in 2015. He's been a head coach. He's been a play caller. He spent 6 years, if I'm not mistaken, at Georgia State, or is it 7 years? Regardless, he's been at the forefront of conversations for sustainability. He came back to Columbia this past offseason. He wanted a fresh start. There's more of an emphasis on the run game with him. You're a rushing offense. You're an offense that knows how to run the football extremely well. I will be very shocked if a team like South Carolina does not go into the portal to find themselves another running back to be sustainable in replacement of Rocket Sanders alongside LaNorris Sellers. So if you already have a run game coordinator on staff, you got a guy that's bought into Gamecock culture, why worry about making a move from the outside? Let's go on to outside candidates that actually I think should get a lot of consideration. And then we'll go to some long shots. But the first name out there, and this is just the name that I would make a phone call to tomorrow, and I would make him tell me no. I'm just letting you know right now. This is my pick. If I am in charge, this is my pick. It's Brennan Marion, the offense coordinator at UNLV. Good God, the go-go offense with this system would be fun as all hell. I mean, just look at it from a perspective of you're seeing wide receivers move upfield, vertically down into the stretches, 25, 30-yard gains, deep shot after deep shot, and then we're going to run the football. Brennan Marion actually said his offense, the go-go style that was transpired and actually concocted in high school and then translated to the college football level, it's a heavy run system with vertical passing attack. So LaNorris Sellers has a cannon of an arm. Literally, just can uncork one, 40 yards down the field. You got Nick Harbor, vertical threat. Mazio Bennett, stellar route runner. Guys are coming on in. You're going to add in, I think, one more portal player, whether it be a tight end, whether it be a wide receiver. You're going to get better. You have an emphasis on the run game. You were one of the top 25 rushing offenses down the stretch. You were one of the top 50 rushing offenses in the country this past year. This was an offense that had finished top 40 in total yards, top 15 in scoring, averaging 36.2 points per game. They were top 5 in rushing. There's an emphasis on mobility at quarterback in this system. Malik Williams rushed for 800 plus yards. He had 9 TDs. And also, you got to give a lot of credit. This is somebody that knows how to sell a program to wide receivers. Don't believe me? Well, let's look at Xavier Worthy and his success rate. And let's look at Jonte Cook when he was supposed to be coming out of DeSoto High School for Texas, when he was the wide receivers and pass game coordinator underneath Steve Sarkisian. On top of that, the development of wide receivers has been really big. Ricky White at UNLV should be considered as one of the most underappreciated pass catchers in college football this past year. It's a simple phone call. He's a young up-and-coming star. And I can tell you what, if Shane Beamer wants to force out or fluck out his coaching tree, you bring in a guy like Brennan Marion. This is somebody that I truly believe can be a difference maker, make your offense explode. He has experience coaching out in the Southern region. He played wide receiver. He knows how to work with your mobile quarterbacks. It just is a match made in heaven. Like, I'm sorry. If I am Shane Beamer, and now knowing that Barry Odom is leaving UNLV, and this guy is up for a new job, whether it be the head coach at UNLV or back in the SEC or back with a team that wants to upgrade its passing attack, I'm sorry. Phone call number one. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I don't think that you really need to make a number two phone call. But let's just say that you do. Rod Ezel at South Alabama. I know what you're going to say. South Alabama, we're better than that, Cole. Okay, cool. I'm not saying that South Carolina needs to be. What I'm saying is there's a point of emphasis of this being a good unit that is very much Wal-Mart brand South Carolina football that worked. You look at Rod Ezel, not only did he do a great impression of Nick Saban, you all know the clip. This is a dude that also did a great impersonation of working with mobility at quarterback and very good vertical passing attacks down the field. This was a top 20 scoring offense. They averaged 34.8 points per game, top 25 in total offense, 434 yards per game, top 25 in rushing, nearly 200 yards per game. On top of that, he has a great relationship with the Southern region, which would be great, would be substantial for recruiting. He's been in the Alabama area for most of his tenure. If he was not in Alabama, he was at Colorado State, where he played wide receiver for a few years. He also has a good overall understanding of the quarterback position because Gio Lopez was another dude that knew how to run the football. This is a kid that if the Jaguars lose him to the transfer portal, somebody's going to get a stud. This is basically Piggly Wiggly version of LaNorris Sellers. 6'3", 232 pounds, not afraid to tuck and run, big cannon of an arm, not afraid to uncork one, not afraid to make those deep shots down the field. A very explosive offense for Major Applewhite. They nearly hung like 100 points in one game. I know it was like against a D2 program. Not the point here. Rod Ezel is a guy that I think is going to eventually find his way into premier offense coordinator positions. This is at least a fit that you could say probably works on paper. Joe Craddock, offense coordinator from Tulane. This is a rising star in the industry. Let me explain real fast to you guys. Joe Craddock has experience as a play caller. He worked at SMU. He worked at Arkansas. He also led his Troy Trojans offense to 2 Sun Belt titles, and Tulane this past year went to the American Conference Championship with a brand new coaching staff underneath John Summerall. And he has been a play caller for like 7 seasons. So there is going to be a good relationship here. He was up for the Oklahoma job. He's been linked to multiple other jobs at the G5 level for head coaching experience. This is somebody that you want to hitch your wagon to as a riser in the industry and say, I was able to help him get to his next step. Because if he can, and I'll be very shocked if he doesn't end up being a household name in the next 2 years. His offense not only was headlined by a good balance and blend of run to pass option, they were like a 45-55 pass to run system. Darian Mensah was phenomenal this past year. Mekhi Hughes rushed for over 1,200 yards. Mario Williams was a very solid number 1 wide receiver out in New Orleans. They're a top 10 scoring offense. They averaged 37.5 points per game. They were top 20 in rushing, over 200 yards per game, and they were top 50 in red zone conversion rate. That's a big deal to me because if you got to realize that South Carolina, one area that they struggled with very early on in the tenure this past year was red zone conversions. If you can get a guy that is better at going from inside the 20 and dialing up plays that guarantees you that you're walking away with 3 points, I'm going to take that 10 times out of 10. You had a better system down in New Orleans than you had in Columbia this year based off the numbers. I got to believe that Joe Craddock has got to be at least in the conversation. Wild card, don't think it's going to happen, but much like I said when it comes to Charlie Wise Jr., if you can hurt another team in the SEC, always do so. It's Buster Faulkner, the Georgia Tech offensive coordinator. There's been rumors and speculation for a while. Faulkner's going to be the next guy in Athens, Georgia. He was already the quarterback's coach there before he took the job with the Yellow Jackets underneath Brent Key. He was massive in the development of Stetson Bennett. I know it's a completely different quarterback style of what you run when it comes to LaNorris Sellers, but he also worked very well with Haynes King. Haynes King this past year was awesome. Haynes King kind of proved to the world what I already knew and what most of us in College Station already knew when I was covering the beat. He was not the problem with the system for the Aggies. Nope, there was a lot of other things going on behind closed doors. He just needed a fresh start elsewhere. This was a team that had a very good emphasis on running the football. He has experience at the Wazoo as a play caller. He's worked at multiple locations, including Southern Miss. I believe that he was at South, no, what was it? Not Central Carolina. I'm blanking on it, but he's been a 3-time play caller. On top of that, he has been a major development of quarterbacks. He's played quarterback before. This past year, this offense for the Yellow Jackets was top 35 in total yards. It was top 40 in rushing. It was top 50 in passing, top 40 in red zone conversions, top 35 in third down efficiency. They knew how to live in third and manageable this year. And also, here's another selling point to you. Eric Singleton, the wide receiver, is in the transfer portal. What if they're a package deal? What if these two end up coming together and it becomes, probably for my money, a match made in heaven? You get another wide receiver to pair alongside with Nick Harbor and Mazeo Bennett. You get to upgrade your passing attack. And this is a dude that also has an emphasis on trusting the offensive line. Whenever you get those big mother effers up in the offensive line, it's going to better your odds of having a sustainable offensive front and a sustainable offensive play design. So I'm always going to lean that way. I got another wild card for you. Tommy Rees. Okay. Second time around is probably going to be really good. What do I mean by that? Well, he was the offensive coordinator in the final year of the Nick Saban-led era. And if you remember, the offense sucked for like the first 3 weeks of the season. They actually ended up benching Jalen Milroe in favor of Ty Simpson and Ty Buckner, who's now playing lacrosse at Notre Dame. Different story for a different day. But they finally realized, let's make sure that Jalen does what Jalen does best. Utilizes mobility. Let's make sure that the LaNorris Sellers does what the LaNorris Sellers does best. Utilizes mobility. And so when you have an emphasis on now knowing that there is a concoction plan and success and sustainability in your play design that works around a mobile quarterback, you can have a secondary shot. He's currently the tight ends coach out at Cleveland. I don't know if he wants to get back into the college football life. I know that he was in the running for multiple offense coordinator jobs. Many people thought he was going to get the Northwestern job last year, and then David Braun kicked ass after Pat Fitzgerald was harmoniously or unharmoniously told to get the hell out. So this is a fresh start. This is a guy that has SEC experience. This is a guy that has worked with a mobile quarterback. And keep in mind, that mobile quarterback and this offensive play caller, they got their shit together and they found a way to make it to Atlanta, win a conference championship, and go to the college football playoff. And they were a few plays away from actually going to another national championship underneath Nick Saban. So if you can't get a Nick Saban former player in Rod Edsel, maybe you get a former Nick Saban play caller in Tommy Rees. Two more for you. This one comes from Spur Your Enthusiasm. By the way, if you guys want to ever be a part of this, like Spur Your Enthusiasm is, I'm going to give you an opportunity. So this is the fan pick for the week. We're going to do this moving forward for everything else out there. Spur said, Sean Clark, former head coach at Appalachian State. So it's coaching switch. It's not the worst idea. Big emphasis on the offensive line. Spent over a decade working at offensive lines with Purdue, with Appalachian State. Knows the area extremely well, knows the recruiting lay of the land, knows the recruiting hotbeds, knows what type of players can make the transition from the G5 level to the SEC level via the portal. He's developed a lot of them, and this is a guy that also is going to put an emphasis on the run game. You have to have a running offense next year if you want to be successful out of Willie B. You can pass the football, you can have those deep shots down the field, but I do believe for this offense to be perfectly the way it needs to act and correspond and coexist, Spur's kind of right. Go ahead and get yourself a big, burly offensive lineman that knows how to develop trench warfare. In the SEC, you need two things to be successful. Number one, a great quarterback. You have to have sustainability at quarterback. Number two, depth on your offensive line. If you get out both those things, you will stand a shot of going to Atlanta, winning a conference championship, and definitely hoisting up a national title. And this is my wild card. This is my perfect wild card that I don't think will happen, but by golly, it just feels right. It just feels like if there's anybody that wants to take a flyer on the wall on this kid who's going to be a star, you talk to anybody in the industry, they believe that he is a head coach in making. They believe that he is an offensive whiz, and he just helped his team get to the college football playoff. The only problem is he's never been a play caller before, but it's SMU quarterback coach D'Eriq King. We all know D'Eriq King. D'Eriq King was awesome when he played at the University of Houston. He was phenomenal for the one full year of health when he was at the University of Miami. And he built a relationship with Rhett Lashlee, and Lashlee gave him an opportunity to continue his coaching career at SMU. And this past year, Kevin Jennings was a superstar. Kevin Jennings, I don't believe, can lead his team to the college football playoff national championship, but I do believe he can lead his team to state college and say, James Franklin, here's another L against a top 10 opponent. This offense was really fun to watch. He comes as a disciple of Rhett Lashlee, who has SEC experience. He has experience working in the South. Many people thought he was going to be the heir apparent to Sam Pittman out in Fayetteville. Instead, he just signed a major contract extension to stay in University Park and probably turn the Ponies into a legit force in the ACC moving forward. I love the style that he likes to call it in. This was a top 20 total offense. They were top 10 in scoring. They were top 40 in both rushing and passing. They were great on third down. There is an emphasis on having a good run game with Rashad Smith, the transfer that came on in for Miami. And then Kevin Jennings, again, mobile quarterback that isn't afraid to uncork one. In fact, the style of offense that we saw with Kevin Jennings down in Charlotte against Clemson is one that if you add to LaNorris Sellers' rep track, that makes him arguably the force of college football this year. Like, that makes him the face of this industry. Shane Beamer wasn't wrong after the Palmetto Bowl to say that this is college football's best player. He has an opportunity to be that in 2025 and well beyond. He has an opportunity to be the dude that takes his team to the college football playoff and takes his team to a national championship. He has all the intangibles. And there's a mobile quarterback that is smaller, but more agile and knows how to unheraldedly throw a football. If you're going for a wild card, regardless if you're going for a wild card, if you can just get this kid on staff, that is priority number one. I think De'Ara King is going to be a superstar in this industry. I think it would be awesome to watch him work alongside with LaNorris Sellers, Nick Harbor, and Mazeo Bennett, the way that he did this past year at Gerald Ford Stadium. But let me know in the comment section down below, who is your pick to be the next South Carolina offense coordinator? Was it somebody I named? Was it somebody I left off? Like, rate, review, subscribe. Make sure that you follow us on all the socials, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at SEC Unfiltered. Download the podcast version of the show wherever you get your podcast listening systems. And check out all of our great work found at SECUnfiltered.com. I'm Cole Thompson. Until next time, Gamecock Nation. Peace!